Hi everyone. Today we are going to talk about spec-driven development, but from a different perspective. In the past video, we did talk about how to do spec-driven development, and we did mention that 2 years back or 1 year back, we were sending prompts to a tool like Lovable, and we were hoping that the product will come out. And then we realized that the prompts have to be a little bit more detailed, has to have guardrails, has to have specific instructions. And we started writing bigger and bigger prompts. Then we realized that that's not enough. We have to use tools like Claude Code or Cursor and then also go through plan mode. So we started creating plans. After creating plans, I think our way of thinking evolved even further and we started creating specs. So instead of just creating a plan from a prompt, we started writing multiple prompts and almost started using AI or LLMs as brainstorming partners to come up with a detailed spec. And then we'll give spec to our LLM and a coding tool to develop the product. I think at Incubyte, our way of thinking evolved further in terms of what kind of product we wanted, rather, how did we want the product to be developed, not just what. And that's been at the core of our craftsmanship philosophy from day one, that we don't only care about what we are developing, but also how we are developing something. And that how part we have tried to codify in our plugin called B. So let's jump right into it. I'm going to now show you how we can start using B and how we can do spec driven development using B. All right. So here we are. We have already started Claude session. We do not have the B plugin here yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to install it through the plugins command. And I'm going to go add the marketplace. Incubyte marketplace is called Incubyte Claude plugins. It's going to clone the repository. A few other commands or other plugins that we have are one is B and other is learn. B is the one that will help you do spec driven development if you're doing it for the first time. And learn is if you are learning something, if you want to learn something new, let's say a new tech, then how can you get started? So learn will help you learn new technologies by coding. I'm going to go ahead and install both of them. As I install it, it's going to tell me to restart it. So let's go ahead and restart our session. Here we go. And now we have our B plugin right over here. Now, what does the B plugin do? The base, the very core command to this plugin is B build. Build command will take your prompt and then it will start thinking whether it is a small thing that needs to be fixed in this existing code base, or is it an empty directory where we want to start a new greenfield project. Based on that, it will also triage whether if it is small and directly it can be fixed, let's say a front end spelling mistake, typo that you need to fix. You don't need to really create a spec to fix a typo. So it'll go ahead and fix it. But what if it is an epic level work that you need to get done and you want to create a big feature? In that case, it'll actually start asking you questions and it will go through a PRD and a spec and an execution plan and actually do the execution. So our goal right now is to go through that entire cycle and see how we can create an app using B with the confidence of shippability or installability of the product. In this case right now, what we also want to do is we want to just a quick idea about the product that we want to develop. At Incubyte, we are always doing interviews and a lot of time we end up asking our candidates to write a little bit of a code. And imagine that we want to create an editor, which is a collaborative editor where two people on the different places or as many people as possible are looking at the same instance of the editor. So if I type something, other people also see it and everyone can collaborate together. So that's the kind of editor that we want to create. We also want to say that when I go to a URL called, let's say, collabedit/new, it will create a new document and I can share that link with multiple people and we can start editing the document together. So let's go ahead and write that prompt, be build. So the editor has to be a WYSIWYG, which is what you see is what you get editor. Right now, TipTap is one of the commonly used editor. And let's say we want the edit to be displayed live to all other collaborators, and we also want commenting functionality. Now we know this is not one of the best prompts that a developer can give to AI system, but that's where the magic of build command lives. What it is going to figure out based on this prompt is that this is a bigger system. This is not just like one quick thing that can be fixed. So it's gonna almost start jumping into, first it'll ask me verifying questions, then it'll jump into a little bit of a discovery, and then it'll create a PRD. So let's have a look at what goes on. So as you can see, it's triaging this request. It kind of identified that this is a greenfield project. It started in an empty directory. There is no existing code. This involves multiple concerns. So it's saying that the size is epic and risk is moderate. It's asking me what kind of backend do you want to create. I'm going to say Node.js Express. For this one, I want to say I want to use Firebase Firestore with React frontend. We will use white with PNPM and TypeScript for UI. Let's use CatCM. I think sync strategy, yes, we want to use YJS. For storage, I already mentioned we are going to use Firebase plus Firestore. Access model is anyone with a link, of course. And then we're going to submit the answers. It does turn out to be a very token hungry system, but I do feel that we do get a return on our investment on this one. So now it is saying, so again, it on the fly figured out that, okay, this is a UI heavy application. That means that it also needs a little bit of a UI discovery. So let's go ahead and say, yes, please go ahead and interview me about the UI. Now, this is another issue, right? That whenever you are creating an application via AI, it's quite visible that these applications have the color schemes and themes which are generated by AI. So to overcome that and give a little bit more control and responsibility in developers' hand, what we can do is it actually spawns a design agent, and it almost will start asking me questions. So one of the questions or some of the questions would be about the theming and different colors that we will use. So let's have a look at what it has to ask us. So now it's asking me about the design mood. What kind of design do we want to use? It's saying, do you want to use clean and minimal, bold and vibrant, warm and approachable, corporate and trustworthy? So let's go to warm and approachable. We'll use Firestore, and let's go ahead and submit the answers. Now, this is the interactive part of B, that it's not going to, first of all, it's going to help us do spec-driven development and learn it, but at the same time, it will not assume much and just start writing code. So while it does the heavy lifting of coding, I think it still gives us as developers the control that we need before we start writing code. So let's go ahead and look at what's the next question. Audience, who are we building it for? So what audience is collaborated for? This fine tunes the visual warmth. Okay, I'm gonna say it's for developer / technical. I'm gonna say I want document level sidebar, but we want to anchor it to specific text. So I'm gonna say select text and comment anchor to that selection, Google Docs model. Yes, this is exactly what we want, and go ahead and move forward. And this is another fun part about using a system like B or any plugins is the fact that how many agents can it come with. B has 20 plus agents that it can spawn based on the needs of the command and the project and which state you are at. Of course, right now we are just starting, so it kind of figured out that we need the designed agent and discovery agent, and it's talking about the design and discovery of the product and clarifying the idea itself. Any visual inspirations? I'm gonna say Notion. Do you want to show collaborator cursor and presence indicator? Yes. Now it's asking specific questions, specific colors that we want to select. And I think I'm gonna go with soft blue. I love JetBrains mono. So let's select that. What level of tip-top editor feature for the first release? I think we can go with essential. Exclamation mark or bang is how you can run your bash commands through Claude. So now when I have type pwd, it's going to run that command as soon as it's done running our two agents. What it's doing right now is it's writing a design MD file, which is the design language that it's going to create now based on the choices that we just made. And it's going to put the theming information and design related information in this file for future reference whenever we start a new Claude session. I'm going to say we will be using this tool during interviews. Now what I'm going to do is let's quickly have a look at the design MD file that got got created, and here it is. So in the design MD file, it created a color palette, how it should look when, I'm not sure if it created dark mode and light mode or not, what kind of typography it should have. Essentially, it has created everything in it. And other things that we could do is we can come here and edit this file directly so that it will take effect when we start the development. It also created layout, how the page structure should look like, and that's about it. Now I can go ahead and click reviewed. This would mean that I reviewed it, and we'll go through that collaboration system with our tool as well. For now, I'm going to get out of here and let's go back to where our development was going on. I see it's already writing one more file, discovery.md, and it's saying that both documents are ready for my review. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this file, and I'm going to review it right now. Of course, if it is a production project, I may spend a little bit more time. One of the workflows that I have is actually take these colors in Claude desktop version and kind of create a color palette out of it, and tell the Claude desktop version, create a mock-up in terms of how it will look like. So you could do, based on how concerned you're about the color scheme and how your application would look like, you can do a little bit more back and forth between different apps, like Claude Code versus Claude desktop versus ChatGPT. In this case, I would just typically go to Claude desktop and tell it to render something for me with this color scheme. I'm going to go ahead and say I have reviewed this. Other file, it's saying that I must review discovery.md. Let's have a look at what we have over there. So let's first have a look at it. So this one is actually a nice one. I see an opportunity to make a comment over here. There are success criteria. There are around 6 things in here. But Incubyte being a technical company, we actually do a lot of interviews with coding exercises. So we may actually tell people to write code in there, and it doesn't specifically mention in success criteria that it should support coding and code rendering. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out of this, and I'm going to go in edit mode, and right here in success criteria, I'm going to say B, and this is how I can address B while I am collaborating over a document. And I can say, B, I do not see explicit support for coding highlighting in the success criteria. It is a big part of our technical interviews. We could go ahead and read the entire document and make the comments that we feel that we should take care of. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out of this file. I'm going to save it. Let's have a quick look at it, that our annotation is still there. Yes, our annotation is there. Let's get out of here. Let's go back to our Claude session, and I'm going to tell it to just go ahead and check the document again. You know what? I'm going to say specifically to check the discovery document, and here it goes. It did find the annotation and it's going to now process it. Here it goes. We're going to go back to our editor. I'm using Nano to save ourselves from switching windows, but I see that it captured my comment and it said edit syntax highlighting as a top level success criteria. Let's have a look at it. You know what? I think it's still asking. Yep, it's waiting for me to, I'm going to exit over here, and I see it just added it. I'm going to open it again in a second. So here we go, and here we go. So what we just did is we just communicated with our document. We said, hey, I do find a gap over here. Can you take a look at it? B said, okay, I'm going to have a look at it. And then it just started changing the document itself. Let's have a look at all the different things that it has added. First thing it added was added syntax highlighting and code blocks right over here. It also added something over here, zero friction for candidate owner right here, code block with syntax highlighting. So it added into decisions that we made, it added it into hypothesis. And now I'm going to go ahead and control X, or rather go back and say, okay, I think I'm happy with what I have. Let's go ahead and mark this document as reviewed as well. I'm going to go ahead and say check the doc, and it's going to identify that this document is now fully reviewed, and it will move on to the next stage. So let's have a look at how the next stage looks like. Now let's also have a look at all the different phases that it defined. So here is phase 1. It's saying walking skeleton. Typically this is where it will set up the entire system just for it to start creating a URLs. It'll set up routing, it will set up the entire project, and then it has the bare minimum functionality of editing. Second is inline comments, and third is polish and interview ready. What we have done is we have also created a MVP mindset skill. What that means is that it's going to work in a way so that each phase is separately releasable and for others to see it, and you could actually see it in terms of how the phases are defined, and each one of this could be product features that we can release iteratively. So let's have a look at what's happening over here. What do we want? Minimal landing page with button, show a clean page with new document button that navigates to new, gives context before creating. We are okay with that. We have a manual auto detect language and submit. All right, so we have our phase one ready. I'm going to say yes. Let's save it. Let's have a look at the document. This is how it looks. For the purpose of this exercise, I'm going to go ahead and review it so that we can move forward. Let's go ahead and say I have reviewed the document. And then I'm also going to now it has 6 different slices, and if you look at it, the very first slices could be just this. I could have gone ahead and said, let's introduce a separate slice 0, just to set up the tooling, but now it will do it anyways by itself. Here we are. I'm gonna say check, and it should now move forward again, and it's going to create an execution plan. So I want you to pay attention to what happened so far. We wrote a very small prompt that said we want to create an editor, but after sending that prompt to our tooling, the tooling decided to ask us more questions, and it almost created a PRD. It created a discovery document where we talked about phases. After that, we told our tooling that, okay, we want to move forward, but it knows that this is big enough a document that each phase can become a spec. So it created a spec for the phase. Now what it is doing is it's actually going through. So we have also an architecture advisor agent. So it's going through architecture and thinking what could be the right boundaries of domain before it starts coding. So it's going to do that. But while it does that, I think other thing that it will do is that we know that AI is not great at even executing workflows like TDD. If we want to tell it to write code in a way so that there's a test case and production code, and it's working in a way so that every piece of production code has an associated test case, it won't actually do it. So what we are doing over here is that we are saying, okay, we want to do TDD. We want to go with simple TDD. This is just like a MVC architecture. I'm going to say yes. And now it will create TDD execution plan. This is pretty much like the plan that Claude Code typically has. Let's go ahead and say yes, let's plan. And it will create the last piece of the document before we start coding. Awesome. So here we have our TDD plan ready, and we can review it in your editor. In our case, I'm going to quickly check it in Nano. Let's have a look at what we have. It's going to pretty much set it up. We see it has a project scaffolding slice. It's making sure that before we can run tests, let's set up white React TypeScript, white test, and testing libraries. In order to save time, I'm going to go ahead right at the bottom and say I have reviewed it. And once again, I can actually go here and start collaborating with it by saying at B. But in this case, I'm going to go ahead and save the document. I'm going to go back to my Claude Code console and gonna say I have reviewed it. Let's get started. Or even better, I'm actually say I have reviewed it. Let's get started and make sure we execute each from the plan in the order they are specified in. So now, if you remember, the document actually had specific steps. And of course, you can't run any other steps until you have done scaffolding, but then it starts behavior and it actually talks about writing a test case first, then run it, see it fail, then implement the minimum code. So here we have actually tried it that our agent would do TDD. And what agent? So let's have a look at what do we have over here. I'm going to go ahead and say yes, let's move forward. And what we'll see is it'll start a programmer agent and it'll actually follow the plan as is. So now we want to make sure that we actually do run, red, green, refactor. If there is something worth refactoring, it'll refactor, otherwise it'll keep moving forward. Here we see that B programmer has started. It also, if I go and do Control O, you will see that it loaded skills. So it loaded clean coding skills and it also loaded TDD practices skill. That means that it will, when it'll do it, it will make sure that naming is right, architecture is right, solid principles, SRP is followed, tidy first is followed. In terms of skill, it will follow TDD and make sure that even the tests are clean. I'm going to go back. And I think now we just have to wait till we see it being implemented. I'm going to fast forward the video over here or cut directly to the end, and then we'll have a look at what is produced. All right. And it seems that all our to-dos are almost done. Our B programmer is almost done writing the slice 1. It has written a bunch of test cases. It has also written the production code. And let's see where it goes from over here. All right. So after having run for around 17 minutes, it has now created all these things. It has created the scaffold. It has created a method like generate code. I think that's the URL that it will, a code that will append in the URL, landing page, new document, editor page. We have all of these things over here. Now, B programmer, of course, we wrote code, But like any good programmer, we should go ahead and also verify the code that we have written. So it has an inbuilt verifier. The verifier is now verifying the code. Let's have a quick look at what's going on inside. It's going to test whether all tests are passed, all TDD plan checkboxes are checked, all acceptance criteria for slice one are covered, and code quality and patterns are sound. So as soon as it is done, we should get a message that says we are ready to move on. It's going to go ahead and update the status of what's already done. And now it's moving to slice 2. It's now creating a TDD plan for that. Let's go ahead and see how the document looks like. At the same time, I want to go ahead and see what was the goal of, so we had a landing page done in slice 1. How about we top the TDD planner right now and we say I want to test the work that's done so far. What do I have to do? All right, now it's asking me to go and find my Firebase credentials. I'm going to go ahead and look for something in my existing file. If I have an existing project that I can use, I'm going to copy and paste those values over here. Let me go ahead and find that. It's telling me where to get the data from. So I'm going to go get it from Firebase console, project settings, general, project overview, and here is my config file. I'm going to blur the data over here so that it's not visible. I think the ideal case over here should be taking this and putting it in a file directly as opposed to even giving it to an LLM. Here it goes. It's going to create a .env file and it's good. It's putting all my environment variables over here. Now let's have a look at whether we have what we need or not. We have executed the browser and we have a very simple web page. I'm going to maybe create it, open it inside here, and here is my web page. So this web page is open. It has a new document, and this is where we have gotten so far. We have a create document, no errors, nothing in the console, and maybe we are ready to move on to the next slice. So I'm gonna say, let's go ahead and move to the next slide. Resume what you were. So we just developed our slice 1, and now we are done with slice 2 execution plan as well. What I'm going to do now is this slice 2 is already open in my editor over here. I'm going to go at the bottom and I'm going to mark it reviewed. Come back to my Claude code and I'm going to say check. We are ready to move forward. Again, now it's going to go through checklist by checklist, every single test case. It will write it, run it, see it fail, write production code, and it's going to repeat it until we are done. So let's wait for it to execute and develop the entire slice, and then we can have a look at it in the UI. We did a bit of troubleshooting just to get the application started. We had some issue in the key. This was a new first one that I saw that it made a mistake in actually copying and pasting a key value. And then I realized that we still had to create a Firestore database. So we created a Firestore database and the application started working. Here it is. We have our collab edit. I'm able to add notes here. Of course, it has some UI issues which we can work with in some time. But right now, what I want to do is just to get done. I saw that it was not yet reflecting the syncing the changes between two browser windows. And it turns out that in slice 4 and slice 5. Now, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let's create a TDD plan for all the remaining slices so that we can implement all of them. So I think this is how you could do spec-driven development using B, where you're doing constantly editing a document and telling it to execute the plan, rinse and repeat. So let's create the doc. I would go ahead and execute it, and maybe in some time we should be able to see the running application. So here we are finally. Our main major 4 slices are over. And I think our POC is almost ready. Let's have a look at where we have gotten so far. So here we did talk about combining all slices together and developing each one of them together. I think there's somewhere in towards the end, I had to fix the database permissions issue for being able to save the documents on Firebase and Firestore. And now here we are. I think now I can go and create a new document, which should give me a new URL right here. I'm going to open another instance of the browser over here and save that as well. Here I'm going to start editing, and we can see that on the right side, it's reflecting what I am typing on the left side. Point being, I think what I wanted to highlight was how we were able to develop this in under a couple of hours, which early on could have been a long time. Not only that, when we did this, we were actually able to create multiple test cases. We also made sure that as we were developing the code, it continuously runs the test cases, and every single commit or every single progression that we make through the specs, none of the test cases failed. So in the end, when we were done, we had around 57 test cases for this editor. So I think I wanted to invite everyone to use B and try it, and please give us feedback. If there's an issue, then please feel free to drop a comment or a issue on GitHub. Thank you.